the way finance function works, you can split the career into two parts. One is early to mid career, and second part mid to the top, mid to the CFOs. Now, first part goes very well because we have very competent, qualified accountants, and they start on a very good note, make good progress for the first 10, 12, maybe 15 years. The problem starts when they hit the middle, because in middle, the game is started to change. And we don't have much guided, structured training and development for those mid-career professionals. That is where they struggle. And that is where they need to transition from an accountant to a business manager. And many are able to do it. Majority really struggle. Peter Drucker was an amazing futurist. I'm a big fan of him. This is what he said in 1997. Universities won't survive. The future is outside the traditional campus, outside the traditional classroom. The distance learning is coming up fast. Now, look at that. This was in 1997. Today, we could clearly see the trends happening but he was able to see that 15 years ago. And if we look back in our accounting curriculum, it's not only that curriculum is not changing fast enough to meet the business requirement, how much online education we have in the accounting or finance side, very limited. And the dilemma is that most of the professionals in the mid-level are living in their job day in and day out, day in and day out. They are so much occupied with their job responsibilities that even if they were willing to really go and develop themselves in terms of the leadership and professional development, they don't have time. They cannot take the risk of really leaving their job responsibilities behind and spend time on training and education and development. In my career, I spent more time working closely with the businesses, getting involved with the balanced scorecard in the early part of 90s when the balanced scorecard was very new. This gave me the opportunity to look more from a business point of view and understand what businesses are requiring. And that is why I spend a lot of time in activity-based costing, balanced scorecard, those type of initiatives which really help the businesses to make better decisions. So in my experience working in different part of the world, different regions, Asia Pacific, to United States, to North America, to Europe, to Middle East, I still see people making remarks that we are bean counters. And some of us are really happily doing bean counting job. This is the time to wake up. How many people have read this book? Raise your hands. Quite a few. This is one of the best-selling title on leadership or business leadership. If you have to read one book in your life, that's the one. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. This is a little older book, like 25 years, maybe 30 years, but it's still selling as a bestseller. And Stephen Covey describes the leadership into two areas: the private victories, basically the personal leadership, 3 habits which are focused on improving personal productivity, personal performance. And the next 3 habits are related to the public leadership. He calls it public victories. And on top of the 6 habits, he surrounds it from the 7th habit, which is called sharpening the saw. Covey describes that 7th habit with a very powerful and beautiful story. And the story goes like this. A man sitting in the woods trying to saw down a tree hectically, and an old man passes by and looks at that man and asks him, "What are you doing?" The man says, "Don't you see? I'm trying to saw down the tree." The old man says, "But you look tired." Man says, "Yes, it's a tough job. How long have you been working?" 6, 7 hours. Old man thought for a moment and said, "Why don't you take a break and sharpen your saw?" Man replied, "I don't have time." How many of us are trying to saw down our trees and we don't have time to look back at our saw and sharpen it? Looking back at the leadership framework given by Stephen Covey, and as I said, I was looking at the CFO leadership model. And personal leadership and public leadership is applicable to any type of leadership. But I brought the element of the strategic leadership into it from a CFO point of view, because this is very critical. Now, you could survive without any strategy education probably until the mid-level of the finance career, but as you move beyond the mid to the top, strategy becomes very, very important. And as I mentioned, that today's business models are extremely complicated machines. Strategy is no more an option. Businesses are adopting and changing strategy very rapidly, and if we are not trained in this subject, it's very difficult for us to support the businesses we are supposed to.